All right. Hello, everybody. I'm here at the hub. Myself, along with Lei and Dane. We are here on a Friday during our regular hours. We're still open Mondays and Fridays, 2 to 6. We got an upcoming community event in about a week and a half, so maybe we'll turn it over to Lei to tell us more about that. Are you ready?
So the next hub night where we have the community come in is going to be the 19th, Monday the 19th, from 6 to 8, and it's going to be themed for Thanksgiving, but it's potluck, so you bring whatever you want. And community is welcome, so anybody can come to it that wants to come.
Awesome. Yeah, so the 19th, and it's 6, is it?
6 to 8.
6 to 8 p.m., yeah. So we'll be open with our regular 2 to 6.
Correct.
And then after that will be the potluck, right? So yeah, everyone come on out. Everyone's welcome. It's not just evacuees. You know, everyone come out on that day.
Hope to see you all there.
Yes. Thanks, Lei. Anything else to add about what's been going on with the community?
There were just some questions people were asking me about when hub night was going to be again, so I just thought I'd set the record straight for everyone.
All right. Awesome. Thank you. So now we could turn to our volcano update. So the long and short of it is there's not a whole lot going on. Actually, it might be more clear out here than there was in there, but let's see. Let me turn this around and show you guys. So we're out here.
So let's look at the past day first, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it.
So really quiet. This is well below the normal levels of earthquake activity for especially the Hale Mau. That's about normal for the south flanks on the southern fault of the rift zone. And Pahala is also normal. These are deep quakes. These are going to be like 30 kilometers deep probably.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 32.
31. Yeah, 32. So those are normal. The Hale Mau is a little quiet. Over the past week, it's been pretty much quiet with only one day where it kind of made up for it. But yeah, this is normal locations, normal amounts, nothing really unusual. There was a day where Pahala got a bunch of quakes, but even that wasn't too extreme. And then we have Mauna Loa has really quieted down from the activity about 3 weeks ago, something along those lines.
Right, yeah.
So in terms of seismic activity, it's been pretty much on the quiet side.
Right. Although the Pahala earthquakes keep happening off, right? So I mean, that's interesting. Like those keep popping off, so they're still happening. I was looking at something the other day that I thought I'd share with you guys. So let me pull up the HVO page here. HVO. And then I was going to show you guys how we can look at some of this a little bit longer term data. So let's go to the monitoring under Kīlauea. And then if you look here on the left side, there's actually a place where you can tap in, for example, data for the past month, right? So they actually have it on here plotted out, so you can see all the earthquakes for the past month all together, right? So that kind of gives us a little bit of an idea of what's happening on a longer time scale. So you can kind of see that there's still quite a lot of settling happening at the summit. You know, there's a cluster of earthquakes, you know, that are kind of around there, right? The colors here are not like the colors in the previous map. In the previous map, the colors indicate like the actual time. And in this map, the colors indicate the actual depth, right? So the red and orange are the shallow ones, and then like yellow is kind of the base of the south flank, you know, those kind of fault areas, and then everything else is deep earthquakes. So like the Pahala ones over here show up as the blues, right?
You can see.
The ones we can see, yeah, it's kind of off the map. We can kind of see some deep ones over here also, but otherwise you see is mostly shallow settling of the adjustment of the rock still, you know, at the summit caldera. And you can still see that the south flank is still moving quite a bit too. You know, not all the way, but especially the section that's over here, like, you know, between Leilani and all the way over, actually, past Makapui, past Mana'ulu, and all the way to Hilinapali, actually, right? So the campground is right down in here, right? So Halape campground is right down in here.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, right? So, you know, all the way to like kind of straight south of the summit is where this is going. So this is a section of rift zone that's really been moving in the last month, right? You know, mostly in here, somewhat in here as well, right? Yeah. But the big yellow earthquakes, the yellow ones kind of show you the bottom of this action of, you know, kind of where it's scraping bottom at the deepest in this kind
Right.
of zone, right? That kind of gives you an idea of what it is. They actually plot this like in a cross section is not as useful because the scale, if you guys look here, it goes from 0 to 10K, 20K, so it's really deep. So, like the south flank ones are kind of right, the bottom of it's like right through there, right? But you can't really tell the difference between that and like the summit collapse earthquake. It just kind of corresponds like straight down, right? So if you go straight down, then like right over there, that's the summit area, right? And you're kind of looking west to east, and that's like this kind of looking along, kind of cut along the south flank, right? Looking right at it, coming towards us in this image. So you can't see a whole lot, but you kind of see this all kind of happening in that crustal area, that's between the bottom of the south flank and above. So that whole thing is moving and shuffling around. All right, so that's the story there. And another interesting thing to look at is they actually plot is the counts, just raw earthquakes per day. And this is something I'm going to show you too, Dane. And actually they have on this side what they call a cumulative moment, right? So they're kind of adding the magnitudes of all the earthquakes together as energy-wise and saying what would the equivalent be for the energy release from all the earthquakes in the day kind of all put together, right? So this kind of gives you an idea, this is 8 all the way up here, right? So it's not been uncommon for recently, like since, it looks like late October or so, right? So we actually dropped down to about like an average of maybe a magnitude 6 or 5 kind of energy release. And before that, we're actually up around maybe an 8 or so, right? And I don't have this plot for earlier. We can pull up the whole past year. And
It's a colorful.
so for the whole past year, you can see there's been action on a volcano. That's the whole summary of the whole year there.
Don't stare too long; it might induce a seizure.
Right. So here you can see where those deep earthquakes, right, kind of deeper down under the summit area. You can kind of see actually somewhat up and off, left and right along there also. But here's our earthquake rates, right? So you can kind of see. Before, this looks a little different, the scale on this side, right? Cumulative moments, actually up to 2.5 times 10 to 26. So that's why they changed the scale over here. So it's not actually magnitude anymore. It's like a way more, right? But,
that'd be huge if it was a cumulative event. That would be like earth-shattering.
so we could actually translate this into like magnitude with some math, but this is not actually something we can just, I can just do it right here in front of you guys, without checking my math.
It's going to be a big number.
So, but anyways, you can kind of see the energy, the amount of earthquakes and energy release kind of really ramped up, and then since then it's really dropped back down, and you kind of see us at, kind of an elevated level compared to before, right? Before we had a lot less, so we're still kind of an elevated level, but not nearly what we had going on during eruption, or even like in the build up to the eruption, you see it kind of building up here, right? Between April and May, right through there, before it really jumps up.
Yeah.
Right. So what I thought was interesting, was go back to the one for the past month. Is actually kind of looked at last week. We had a really big gap, and we had a really quiet day, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of noteworthy as well because the last time we saw a quiet day was before lava came out of the ground. Now I'm not saying that this was happening now, but it's interesting to see when it's actually not adjusting. What the pressures are going back and forth. But clearly the norm is, more earthquakes than not, and, like when it's quiet, then you maybe take notice and see what's going on.
Right.
So as far as we can tell, I didn't really, there's nothing that I can associate with that gap right now. Basically it just seems like it was settled for a day, and then it kind of picked back up again after that. That's all I want to share with the earthquakes. If you guys want to look at those pages in more detail, more data, you guys can kind of look at that. But we could switch now to the tilt, maybe. And let's load it to the most recent page. And what we basically have going on is some user there we go. So, all right, at Pu'o'o, what's going on?
Nah, basically it's been pretty much flat. I mean, it's doing a little bit of gradual inflation, and then this bump would be basically the daytime bump, and it was a very hot day today comparatively to the past month, so that's a little more pronounced than it has been. Other than that, it's been a lot more gradual, the rate of inflation on the tilt meters at least, for Pu'o'o and the Middle East Rift.
Yeah, let's look at the scale here real quick, right? Just to show you guys. This is like 0.5 per per little dotted line, right?
Right.
Same in the one above, right? So these little, it looks kind of flat, and that's on a really zoomed in scale too.
Yeah.
Not the most zoomed in, because some of these other ones, like look at this one right here. Look at our past week, the scale on this, it's 0.2 per dotted line, right? So it's
Tiny.
Even
This is
more
one of the
zoomed in.
smallest scales we've seen for.
So it looks like the thing is going up and down, up and down. Really, this is the regular flat that we've been seeing the whole time. It's just so zoomed in, you can kind of see it, every daytime peak.
Right. Each daytime, the little alterations, and these are more pronounced in some of the other tilt meters, but each one kind of has the bump from the day.
Right. So basically, when at first glance it might look like the thing is, jumping all over the place. That's kind of the background normal. It's just so zoomed in that that makes it kind of deceiving, right? So let's go back to the past month is a little more accurate, right? Because now we have a bigger scale again. Right now we have 5 microradians per dotted line, so we can kind of see our U-shaped event, the deflation-inflation event at the summit, our V-shaped event that happened within the last month, and you kind of since then you still see little daytime bumps, but you kind of get the overall pattern of how flat it is. It's kind of stabilized, right? We're not seeing any kind of slight rise yet that might indicate like we're gonna maybe do another one of these things, slight rise over here, and possibly before that, right? It kind of looks like it's more flat than rising at all to me at this point.
Yep, and the last gap, the interval was roughly 10 days, so we're getting to be about that point now from the last one.
Okay, so we'll keep watching. Maybe by over the end of the weekend.
Yeah, maybe by the end of the weekend we'll see something.
We'll see sign of something, right? At least some inflation to start. Otherwise, on that rift zone, these signals, it's the one at the escape road. We saw what looked like some correlation to the second V-shaped deflation event, and then kind of since then, I'm looking at the bottom of these peaks. It's kind of done some oscillation, but it's kind of pretty unchanging, right? We're wiggling up and down a little bit, but this is all within this half microradian range once again. So looking at Kīlauea on the south flank, south of Mauna Ulu, you can kind of see what we thought might have been signal of some south flank movement locally there, and then kind of the bottom of the plots are kind of going back up and coming back down again, but still, because the total range of it, might have happened at first. It was half microradian, and now it's coming back down, and it's still basically not a whole lot happening there either. At Pu'o'o, we have still a very slight rise, but it's not coming very fast, and it's not really clear.
Yeah.
Where that's what's coming from. If it's magma itself, it's pushing somewhere deep enough that the gas is not reaching the surface to be detected, and that kind of makes it somewhat suspect to me, because the tilt, we're not sure like how big a signal we can see from the deeper parts of the rift zone in particular, right? So.
But we do have the most amount of sulfur dioxide has been detected at Pu'o'o. Between the summit, Pu'o'o, and Leilani, it's Pu'o'o that's given the amounts that are the biggest right now, and even that's pretty small.
Right.
Like, it's historically small.
It was something like 25 tons a day or something like that?
It was
Or
75 from Pu'o'o, 50 from the summit for 125 total, which is below any measurements taken during Pu'o'o's time.
Right. So yeah, basically, that's kind of, to me, the first thing we're looking for, right? We're gonna pretend there's a canary in the coal mine, watch for the gas. But so here, Pu'o'o and Jonica kind of show a similar pattern. This one's not rising quite as fast.
Yeah, that one steadied out a decent amount, especially from like this trend after the DI, the first DI cycle. It was kind of like that. And then it kind of leveled out, especially during the last one, which would have been right about here. You can see it kind of leveling out. It hasn't even done, since that event, it's only done about a little over, I'd say, a half microradian, which is really on the nuanced side.
Right, yeah, in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so not much happening there. So that's kind of the tilt meter summary. Let's switch over to GPS, and let me go back to the top of the page here and reload and make sure we get the most recent info share with you guys. And basically we see flat, flat, flat. There's an interesting thing I wanted to kind of show right here, right? It's not really that clear looking from this plot that there's like a decrease right here, right? But you maybe can see that this section looks a little lower than this section, right? But if you look at this 5-year plot,
what's our scale on that one?
scale on this one.
Oh, it's just under. All right, so
10 centimeters.
only
Yes.
10 meters.
Yeah, and this is the distance between pool oil and jacuzzi, right? So that's probably got a different set of errors if you're using the difference between two stations
Right.
rather than one standing independently on its own. Was it this one, or maybe I need to go to the USGS page? They should have. Is a 5-year plot of pool on here? I'm not sure
No.
it is. So let me just figure out right on here. Let's go to whoops, monitoring information data, and go down here. So things a little more obvious. You look at on this scale, right? You see a little increase trend right there.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so it's interesting how you zoom it out a little more. It looks a little more clear, right? You don't really see the little pause, hiccups in between. It kind of shows more of an overall trend of the thing actually has been very slightly rising since it finished flattening out.
Or splitting, yeah, away from each other. The jacuzzi and pool.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's it's starting to spread apart.
Yeah.
Exactly, since it actually came all the way back together. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's interesting to finally see the sign of that. There, it's not quite as clear. And this one, obviously the scale is very, very small.
Right. Yeah, it's been pretty much flat on a lot of these. There are a few that have some signals that are interesting.
So let's go back to the tracker. So here we are in tracker. And most of these, we can kind of staring and crossing your eyes at the last. So as you can kind of see, it's a little clearer now at this change of trend we saw last week, a couple weeks ago. That does seem to be kind of stabilized, right?
Right.
No longer rising there at the jacuzzi station. So the same is true at Jonica. It's no longer really rising. It seems like it's
Maybe a slight rise in there still.
Maybe.
With the volatility.
within the error, yeah.
Yeah.
Looking at the north component, it seems like there's a little, maybe the inflection point, right, where it's kind of trending to, maybe it's still rising, but it's
Yeah.
kind of looks like it's going to flatten out there if it hasn't already. So maybe you don't need to go through all the different signals of all GPS. Those are the most important ones. Kind of went in more detail. The last time we went through the tilt in extra detail. I'm sorry, 2 times ago. The last time was a tilt.
Yeah.
So,
basically
kind of
gone through it. And we went through SO2 a little bit, and basically it's just really quiet right now between all the monitoring signals that we have and ability to, look at what's changing. There's not much changing.
right.
It's really subtle.
What about the gases people are smelling?
Well, gases people are smelling. USGS has stated that there's been H2S detected, which is going to be a lot more easily detectable for a human nose. So it's going to be easier to pick up at a much smaller concentration. So it's just going to get further away from the source and travel on the wind longer, linger. So you'll catch these whiffs. They'll smell kind of like rotten eggs, but it kind of gets. It's a hard distinction to make between SO2 and H2S. It's pretty subtle. You kind of have to get used to smelling one and then smell the other and then smell the other one again, and you
Right.
go back and forth, and it's like, all right, I think I can tell the difference between them. Otherwise, they are pretty similar smells.
Right.
And it just smells like bog, basically. To the uninitiated, it's just all it's gonna be is bog.
Right.
So that's going to be the primary thing people are smelling, especially since it's coming from, we have to assume, since USGS stated previously that it's coming from Lower East Rift Zone, so Leilani, coming from Pu'o and the summit. I detected all of them. And yesterday when we were at the park, we detected H2S when we were standing around up there too. So it's getting distributed from multiple points, and it just travels longer basically in smellable levels. Where SO2, it takes much higher dosages to be able to be detected.
Right. So the other thing was you just posted on Tracker about the fires in California. Speaking of things people can smell, what might they smell?
Yeah, so there's some really nasty fires out in California that have wrecked whole communities, but not going into that totally. But basically, the National Weather Service in Oahu has stated that the smoke is so much that we're able to see it on the satellite imagery coming over the Pacific, and if there's a chance that it get caught in the trade winds and be able to blow into some part of Hawaii potentially. So if, say, next week or, say, Sunday, you start smelling, you know, wood burning smell, it's got to be considered that it might be that. You know, that's basically what the warning is from the National Weather Service, is we might smell smoke just randomly.
All right, so that's kind of a good kind of transition, because, you know, we're going to likely hear about the smoke. People are going to say, oh, there's smoke, there must be a fire somewhere nearby. Then we'll address it at that point again.
Right.
But speaking of fires and, you know, smoke and, you know, people, you know, seeing smoke and fire, and, you know, there's a report of glow going around on the internet now.
Yeah.
And it's, at first it seemed like the first reports were saying that maybe the glow was coming from somewhere by the rift zone, which is something we take seriously, because what we expect, if somehow lava is able to sneak out of the ground without the gas and without the earthquakes and without any sign, which is, you know, it seems like impossible to us.
Yeah.
But maybe isn't actually impossible, because, you know, things can happen we can't imagine. So, you know, okay, let's not say it's actually impossible, but it's highly unlikely. But if that were to
Take place.
to all happen, it would happen at the rift zone.
Right.
So we're like, okay, well, maybe let's take it seriously. Maybe there is actually, like, you know, something that could happen over there. So let's see if there's something to verify.
Right.
Then it came in, well, maybe it's above the poly. Like, okay, well, that's a little different, because if it's above the poly, not in the rift zone, it has to basically come from the rift zone, draining down. Maybe an old lava tube cracked open and something was leaking out, or something crazy random like that. Then we heard,
And
well,
that's not you know,
Not
founded. And,
No,
you know, there's, if it were to sneak out, maybe it would come through some kind of crack like that. But
yeah, that could
still
happen.
highly unlikely.
It should be like a small scale, localized thing, but, you know, yeah, that could potentially happen and make a little bit of glow. So, you know, okay, you know, maybe that's something to consider as well. And then the last thing we heard was it was actually down by the coast, down by the ocean. Okay,
All the way
well,
down the poly.
and in that case, well, that's where all the people are.
Yeah.
That's where all of us hang out. It's by the coast, by the ocean, right?
Night fishermen fish out there plenty, and they make fires. And
Right. So most likely it was, you know, someone with a fire, you know, flashlight. I don't know exactly. I didn't see exactly. It's hard to say from the picture. It wasn't very clear. You know, the picture wasn't a picture of lava, but a picture of, you know, glow of some kind from some illumination source, but not clear at all that was lava. So
yeah, and glow just wouldn't look like that really either. It's going to be a lot different. We've seen the glow on a cell phone camera plenty, because that's what the Y camera was. The entirety of, not the entirety, but from like late July or mid-July running forward, that was every 2 minutes it was taking an image, so we got to see all the different variations that glow can take, and even how the camera can capture things that aren't glow and make it look like glow, confusing even people that are on the ground and making all kinds of strange things that, you know, look like they're there but they're not. So
all right, so if we ask the glow experts, not lava.
yeah.
All right, so that's the bottom line there. But of course, you know, we take those reports seriously. So if something happens, like, you know, we'll definitely keep listening and, you know, stay on alert. But, like, just gonna let you guys know, like, you know, the biggest, most likely place that happens is on a rift zone. If something happens farther down, you know, maybe it happens, it's less likely. And if it does happen, it's less important in the long term of things, because some old pocket kind of breaking and draining is not long term reactivation of the rift zone, which is kind of where we're all at as far as wondering where lava's going to come out next.
Yeah, that's the big question.
So kind of in summary, you know, there's not eruption. Lava is not coming out of the ground. You know, we think it was something else that, you know, could potentially come out somewhere by the ocean as well. But being
without earthquakes, I'd be crazy surprised.
If it was like by the ocean, I'd like to see, you know, maybe like an ocean entry, a plume, or, you know, some other evidence of something beyond just a little bit of glowing.
Yeah, I'd give really good betting odds on that one. Like really good odds that that's not going to happen. You know? Can't say it won't, but I'll give those odds.
Right. So, all right, you know, so, yeah, but, you know, what I kind of see is that, you know, we're all still a bit on edge, like, we're all kind of wondering where the lava is and where it's going to come next, and what it's going to do, and, like, you know, can we, like, let our guard down, kind of, as the way someone put it earlier, right? You know, like, so, and that's kind of that's a hard thing to deal with, right, you know, so.
Yeah, but a lot of people are on edge, and it scarred a lot of people, you know. There's some, you know, real the psychological damage because of all of these eruptions coming up on your homes in the middle of the night, and it was traumatic for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a real form of PTSD. You know, I'm not sure terminology, but that, like, for sure it was a life-scarring, altering event for most people, right? You know, in some way or another.
So a lot of it's just, you know, keep an eye on the data and keep an eye on USGS and keep an eye on Tracker, and if, you know, even if one of them's not going out, you know, like talking about something, listen to the other, but, you know, wait on, like, if one place says something, the other ones disagree, then hesitate, you know, for at least that second.
Right.
Because there's been plenty of false, you know, USGS is not exempt from this. Civil defense is by far not exempt from this.
Right.
So, you know, mistakes happen.
Right.
You know, that's the point. And just investigating isn't the problem. You know,
Right.
even asking the question and putting it out there just to find out, that's not a problem. It's, you know, being able to differentiate between, you know, like the question being asked and this is happening.
Right.
That's the big thing.
Right.
You know?
So we'll continue on alert, you know, so we'll let you guys know as far as anything goes, you know, maybe some context. I was telling someone this earlier, you know, like the longest pause we've had of an eruption at the, you know, was from 34 to 52, was 18 years, where the volcano was quiet. That's like, you know, the far extreme that I can imagine, like the longest it could possibly stay quiet, because the thing is really active, and geologically that's just a blink of an eye still, you know, so. Okay, outside chance it's quiet for a long time, you know, but most of the time, like 95% of the time, it's 3 years or less, right? And 2 out of 3 times, like 67, I don't know the percentage exactly, but in the 60s, you know, it's 2 years or less. You know, so, and almost every single time, it's at the summit where it pops up first. It doesn't always like erupt huge at the summit, but it might pop up somewhere in a summit, you know, as
Before reactivating down the road.
before reactivating further down. So I'm not going to say that's exactly how it's going to happen, you know,
Right.
but if I was going to bet, I'm going to bet on the little record that we know pointing towards the summit as being a likely place.
Yeah.
Now, you know, we haven't been looking at this volcano for very long, you know,
But that trend
geologically.
is pretty common when you start researching. It's just like event happens, it turns
Yeah.
to the summit. Event happens, it turns to the summit.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah, but it's just problematic because we have these eras of summit eruptions alternating with rift eruptions, and like we go back a couple of cycles, and then suddenly we're in a pre-written record, and then like we just don't know what the sequence was or
how long.
how long it lasted, how big was it,
Yeah.
how significant was it, how big an area, you know. So those are the things that kind of, you know, that's where we're kind of, we really don't, it's hard to see, hard to know. And you know that there's another complication, which is you only see the most recent eruptions on the surface of the ground, and you don't see like what happened before it's all buried underneath there.
No.
So, you know, that's what I mean by just taking the data we can see and run, you know, using that as a basis. You know, there could have been an eruption that happened differently that came out of the rift first after this situation like now, but we can't see it because it's buried underneath all the more recent.
Right. And
So-
when 1955 reactivated, that was, you know, it was down for what, like 2 weeks basically. It was in a pause state. Even then, there was a key amount of seismic activity denoting that this is not over in 1955. There was a deflation seen in the near highway, at Pahoa School, because they used to have the old tilt meter there, a pendulum style one, which was pretty bad, but it could still, you know, sense big movements like an eruption and post-eruption, and it showed deflation afterwards, which we haven't seen either.
Right.
So we're not on that 1955 reactivation, because that was talked about for a while. Like that one
Right.
can be, that's not a comparison
Right,
by far.
and I still think that the 3.5 month Mauna Ulu reactivation that showed inflation a lot of the time also is also not a parallel.
Right.
You know, so I mean, I do think it will start inflating more noticeably at some point. I don't know how it's going to start. If it's going to start suddenly, or it's going to grow from a small amount to a larger amount, or how I don't know how it's
Or
going
if
to
there's
happen.
going to be a quake that starts
Right.
it, type of thing.
But at some point it will, and you know, if you look at what the USGS says and like the history, what I'm saying, we're basically looking at what this now famous term is months to years, right? It's like from a few months to a few years. You know, it's kind of the time range of most likely what comes out, and the place that's most likely comes out is a summit. John's not here to put forth his view, which is that's completely possible, and he might even say likely comes out of the rift zone first again instead, you know, and that's something we can't discount. But so just my opinion and his there as well, since he's not here to state it.
Yeah,
And it's always the other side of the coin.
and that's his argument that it's most likely to come out of Fisher 8 type of thing again.
Fisher 8, or potentially between Kīlauea and the pinch by
Yeah.
1:30, where it's been showing the signals. So that's interesting. I mean, we'll discuss that when we're back with him on Monday in more detail. Those signals down here have kind of flattened out. But there's still no obvious connection shallowly to the summit. The DI events at the summit did not show on a rift all the way down here like in any deflationary trend, that we have the ceasing of inflation,
Yeah.
right, at best, right? But it wasn't like a 7 microradian drop,
Yeah, and you used
or
to be
even
able
a 2
to,
microradian drop, or anything
and
like
you used
that.
to be able to see more pronounced, like during the Kīlauea days, or at least when you could see it, the times you could see it.
Right, the times when it was linked.
Yeah, well, the times when it was linked, it would be more pronounced. Right now, it's like as gray as you can get on that signal. Like, is it there? Or is the rate change? Does that count? I don't know.
Right.
Like, is it going to pick back up and we just ignore it? Like, so we're still waiting kind of to find out what the trend is going to change to, or if this is the new trend, or so we're just kind of waiting right now. It's in a
Waiting and watching, and we're like I think it's fascinating. Like, all this instrumentation is picking up information that we've never had before. We've never had a post-collapse scenario instrumented before.
right.
Right, so who knows what we're going to actually be able to dig out of this data. We're trying to catch it all right here as we see it comes in on the fly, but maybe there's something will pop up a little later on too.
Oh yeah, when the data set that USGS has behind closed doors, I guarantee is absolutely mind-boggling, and they can't even process. Like, they probably collect more, like a lot of people do. You collect more data than you can process, and you'll process it later.
Yeah.
Eventually, if that data were to be formatted in some kind of transmittable format like JSON or whatever you have, there's a ton of them, be able to pass it to the analysts to be able to run maybe machine learning against a data set, it's multiple terabytes in length and just raw text. You might find all kinds of crazy things out that you never even suspect, but until we get to that point, we don't know. And, machine learning isn't going to tell you like definitively this and definitively not this, but it's going to tell you like, hey, this is going to be interesting to investigate.
Like, this looks suspicious, and that looks suspicious, and that looks suspicious.
Have somebody look into this case,
And then a human takes over, and then totally starts pulling the threads.
Yeah, so we're not there yet, but hopefully USGS is working on a whole bunch of different things. So hopefully that's one of the things that's in the forefront, because you outsource it then to colleges around the world, let them run it, the analysts and the data processing and all that, let them do it, and then you just get the results. So not a bad thing to open source that kind of data pool.
Yeah, so I can imagine probably the next 20 years, USGS is going to be needing lots of volunteers. You guys want to come sign up? Hopefully, we can get them to start releasing this chunks of data so that the public can maybe help them with some of this.
Right, and it's
citizen science part of it.
And it probably is not just releasing; it's probably about being able to put it in that format that makes it able to be input by the other side. So it's not just, here you go, good luck.
Right.
It's something that they know how to work with.
All right, we see a jungle man coming through here, huh? So we're just wrapping up. You got anything to say, Cubby, today?
Aloha. Hope everybody's well. Hang in there. It's going to get better.
All right. So wrapping up here at the hub, and if you guys haven't been following Ikaika is about to play in the Slacky Festival tomorrow in Seattle. So hopefully we'll get to see some of that when our man shares that with us.
Yeah.
We'll check that out tomorrow.
We miss him.
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll be back here on Monday to give you guys whatever is new at that point.
Sounds good.
Until then,
Stay classy.
Stay classy.
All right.